Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
The Sixers got annihilated. That performance was absolutely embarrassing. In last game, I said, look, I'm not really frustrated with the 76ers anymore because we knew how this was going to finish. We understood that this team was so tiring. We've seen all of this before. They are not good enough. But I am disgusted with the effort. Now I'm pissed off with the fact that here's a playoff game against your biggest rival. And okay, you lost the game. I don't care about the loss. I knew the loss was going to happen. It's about the way it looked. It's about the way that these are professional athletes and they decided to give up. They lost by 27 points to the Boston Celtics. How is that even possible? I don't care that you're shorthanded. I don't care that you don't have the better roster. Clearly, this Celtics team has a better roster, okay? And they're clicking, and they're playing well, and they have confidence, and they run a smooth game out on the floor. So guess what? They have the better roster. It's not about that because I knew how it was going to end before the series even started. It's about the way it looked. It's about the fact that this team, they cashed it in. White flag. And that's a problem. That's a big-time issue, and it's a huge wake-up call for this organization. We are stuck. We are stuck right now, and how are they going to dig themselves out of this mess? Tobias Harris and Al Horford with just pitiful nights. The fact that Tobias Harris was 4 for 15 and Al Horford gave you a whopping 2 rebounds and 4 points is disturbing. And Brett Brown, when you have Joel Embiid having some pretty interesting things to say post-game and Kemba Walker saying something very similar, dude, it's time to switch things up. It's time to go in another direction. You have to have another philosophy defensively or you are going to continue to get shredded. And it seems right now they're going to continue to do it. Because it has been this way for quite some time. This episode is sponsored by Orbit Energy and Power. And with over 20 years of experience in the solar industry, they are home to your solar experts in both residential and commercial projects. They also provide water purification systems, backup energy services, battery storage, and more. So visit them online. Their information is in the description. So here's what Joel Embiid had to say. Jayson has been different. You have to find a way to get the ball out of his hands. They want me to stay back, but we've got to make adjustments. Something's got to change. It feels too easy. And I agree with him completely. Having him sag back, it's allowing these Boston Celtics players to get to where they want you on the floor and knocking down wide open shots. You have to change that. You can't allow them to do it over and over and over and over again. At some point, get in their face, okay? Blitz them. Bring a double team. Do something different. Because if you continue to go down the same path, the same results are going to happen. Now, let's get to what Kemba Walker had to say post-game. It's different. I really haven't seen that much space in a very long time. So here's your opponent, Brett. Here's your opponent saying, wow, look at this. I haven't seen this much space in a long time. That should be sounding off so many alarm bells in everyone's brain when it comes to the players, the coaching staff, the front office. It needs to change. And at this point, we know it's coming, all right? So once again, the obnoxious screaming of the firing of Brett Brown, it's kind of wasted energy in my opinion because I already see it happening and it's almost inevitable. So at this point, I don't think I'm going to bang on the table, rip my hair out. This guy has to go. It has to happen, right? I mean, there's no way that this front office allows this type of slop to continue. And when things like this happen, while I put a lot on the players, because to me, Tobias Harris missing all those layups and being piss poor, well, that's on Tobias Harris. And Al Horford being a shell of himself, I'm telling you, it's not the age. There's something in him that clearly isn't turned on, and he doesn't feel like competing. He hasn't fallen off to this degree. It's almost as if he's okay and he's satisfied with getting waxed by his former team, and there's no fight in there. There's no fire lit under him that he's getting abused to this degree. By the way, his sister tweeted out on Twitter something about Brad Stevens, and it's a shame the Sixers don't have Brad Stevens, something of that nature. So she's taking shots at Brett Brown, but you know, you don't have the audacity to do that, because it's not like your brother has been playing well. Your brother has sucked, no matter if it's because of Brett Brown, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. It doesn't matter. He hasn't provided enough regardless of what's going on, so shame on him as well. Like, I put a lot on these players, and I feel, too, should we put a lot on ourselves? We expected Shake Milton, who was a G League dude, and Matisse Thybulle, who's a rookie, who's awesome, by the way, but a rookie. We expected them in the starting lineup to make a difference. I mean, don't you think, to some degree, shame on us for falling into the mindset that that would be okay? And look, here's something I want to talk about when it comes to Brett Brown, and this is not defending Brett Brown. I just am trying to make a point that the alternative isn't always the fix. The problem right now, there is no fix with the current roster. That is my point. So I find it funny that Twitter has a lot of NBA coaches during the 76ers games. Oh, you got to put in this guy instead of that guy. Brett Brown's stupid for this guy instead of that guy. His philosophy right now is clearly getting destroyed by Brad Stevens and this Boston Celtics offense, continuing to get the spots on the floor where they are knocking them down at will and they're not being contested like they should be. And you got to get the ball out of Jayson Tatum's hands, and it continues to stay in Jayson Tatum's hands. So his philosophy, garbage. And while Alec Burks deserved way more minutes than he got early on in the game, and here's my point. Game 1, Al Horford started instead of Matisse Thybulle, and there was outrage that Matisse Thybulle should start. And I thought that it was fair to think about Matisse Thybulle because of the guard play, right? But I wasn't against Al Horford. I saw both options as, okay, let's see what happens. So, outrage from some that Matisse Thybulle should have been in instead of Al Horford. Horrendous decision by Brett Brown. Okay, well, game 2, here's Matisse Thybulle, and he's minus 30. Okay, Jayson Tatum took his lunch money, and Matisse Thybulle was destroyed out there. And to be fair, I think Matisse is going to be a great player one day. This is a learning experience for him. But my point is, the alternative is not always the right answer. So while Raul Neto did go out there, and I never really want to see Raul Neto in playoff minutes because of the fact that this team, and we saw it in game 1, can't make a pass to the post. Shake Milton can't pass. Josh Richardson, you saw him at one moment in the third quarter try and make a pass to Joel Embiid in the post, and it got stolen instantly, and there goes the Celtics on the other way. Frustration happened. Joel Embiid fouled Marcus Smart, and then after that, here's a Jaylen Brown 360 dunk. I mean, that is just absurd for that whole sequence to happen. But my point is, the team couldn't pass the ball to Joel Embiid. They couldn't actually get it to him. So what do you do at that point? And keep in mind, they had so many turnovers, 18 turnovers. So what do you do? Well, what do we have? We have a guy in Raul Neto who stinks defensively, can't really do much, but the one thing he can do is be a traditional point guard and actually pass someone the basketball. So that's what they went with. And the alternative that people are screaming about is Alec Burks. And I get it. Alec Burks deserved way, way more minutes than he did in that time. But I don't think Alec Burks being in that floor situation was the difference in this team winning. All right, minus 14, Raul Neto was. Okay, in those 9 minutes, that's bad. Alec Burks was really bad in his 6-minute spurt that he had early on. Check out his plus-minus then. Matisse Thybulle, he was double digits when it comes to minus in the first half in his 20-plus minutes there during that same time that Raul Neto had his run. Like, it was awful all around. And Alec Burks, while he is a bucket getter and he can break down someone, he can score, I think that's valuable to this team. But there's a huge overreaction to what this guy can do. When you looked at his scoring when he was on the Golden State Warriors, yeah, he scored the basketball. That team was the worst team in the NBA. So if Alec Burks is your guy to score you buckets, that results in you being the worst team in the NBA. Now, I am not defending Brett Brown whatsoever. I thought he was horrendous, and when the team falls apart like this, it shows you that this coach isn't connecting to the players. Like, this is a playoff NBA basketball game, and they lose by 27 points to their biggest rival. They got out-rebounded. 43 rebounds for the Boston Celtics, 39 rebounds for the 76ers. They got out-rebounded by this basketball team. Their bench had 41 points and was a factor and contributed, and their bench was their weakest part of the team. And then factor in Gordon Hayward's not even out there. They had to slide Marcus Smart in the starting rotation, and that diminished their bench even more. So it was a joke from everything, from everyone, and even Joel Embiid. Look, I know big picture Joel Embiid wasn't the issue in this game, and he has no help. Here's one of his quotes. "I definitely got way more to give." I'm sorry, what? You're telling me now, after that type of performance, you have more to give? You have more to give? You shouldn't have more to give, because you should be so exhausted by giving us 120% in this specific basketball game. And I'm not saying it's his fault, because he is clearly not the big-time issue with this basketball team right now. But I didn't like hearing that quote from Joel Embiid whatsoever. You got way more to give? You just got embarrassed, literally embarrassed by the Celtics, and you have more to give 5 minutes after the basketball game is over. I'm sorry, I can't get behind that quote at all. But getting back to my point on, who's playing here and how many minutes here and 8 minutes here and Furkan this and that, there are no answers, all right? It's just that simple. With this team, there's no correct answers, because this team is not built properly, and that's reality, and that's how I see it. You got Tatum going off for 33 points once again. The kid is a killer. The kid is a legit weapon, all right? The way that he's so confident, he's shooting the basketball at will. When he takes that smooth-looking jumper and you hear the cush of the net, it's electric. The kid has it, all right? He has the it factor, and he's truly a fun watch. It just sucks that he has that jersey on, and it sucks that everything's related back to what we witnessed with the whole Colangelo issue and Markelle Fultz and all of that. But it's going to be a very interesting offseason. Who the hell is going to want any of these contracts? They are handcuffed, and they're going to have to find a way to really change some things. And I did hear a word about the COVID-19 situation happening right now, and there's front offices that are not going to be willing to move on from a coach or to move on from certain personnel because they don't want to pay another coach while still paying somebody else who's no longer helping the basketball team, because they're losing so much money when it comes to fans and when it comes to revenue. And let's pray that that doesn't happen here, because people are going to lose their damn minds. And to be clear, I do think that it is clearly time at this point. That told me something. And I knew before that there was something wrong with this team. So I'm not saying, oh, well, this was such a wake-up call to me. Obviously, now something has to change. No. But seeing that happen, you're talking game 2 in the second round of the playoffs. You cannot have that type of effort on the floor, and I blame literally everyone. There's no one you can't blame. I blame the front office. I blame Elton Brand. I blame Brett Brown. I blame all the players, because the players were out there. The players got out-rebounded, okay? I blame every single person. But when you see that type of effort, when you see Joel Embiid on the bench with his hands on his face, it's a huge problem. There's a huge disconnect. And, Brett Brown during this philosophy thing, I don't get it. It's something that I can't comprehend. If you continue to see a man destroy you constantly, it's so simple, right? You don't allow that guy to continue to do it. You can't allow that person to get to the same spot on the floor consistently. You're bringing Joel Embiid back underneath the basket. And I get that it's a risk to blitz a guy. It's a risk to move Joel Embiid up when there is a pick and roll. There are risks because that exploits other parts of the court. And that's kind of similar to what I was saying with the bench, right? So, we should have put this guy in instead of this guy, and Shake shouldn't have been pulled out. And I saw someone claim, why Shake Milton out? He started out so hot. Here's Brett being so dumb. Shake enters the game, and then he has that backcourt violation because Marcus Smart's all in his grill. The alternative is not always the answer. So while I say bring Joel Embiid up a bit on pick and rolls, I'm not saying that that's the answer and that's going to absolutely fix all of the issues with the pick and roll defense. The alternative is not always the answer, but you cannot, and I mean you cannot, do what they're doing over and over again. At some point, hey, you have to try something new. And let's hope that in Game 3, you see, I don't even know what type of team to expect in Game 3. Do you get a fired-up Sixers team who's embarrassed, or do you get another effort like this where they just get stomped on and rolled over? But I will tell you what a disgrace. What a disgrace. Support for Sports Talk with Broads is brought to you by Manscaped, who is best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. They obsess over their technology developments to provide you the best tools for your grooming experience. There is nothing worse than being in the shower, trying to shave, and making sure you're clean down there, grooming as you should, and you get a little cut. And now you're worried about the bleeding. Then you don't have to worry about that when it comes to the Lawnmower 3.0 because of Manscaped's advanced skin-safe technology. You have 90 minutes when it comes to this battery. Water-resistant technology for the shower. LED lights to make sure that you don't miss any spots. The 7,000 RPM motor with the quiet stroke technology. So it's very silent in there when you are making sure everything is smooth. I want you to experience this firsthand. You will get 20% off and free shipping with the code BROD at manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com with the code BROD. So, truly one of the most disappointing games. I was in awe, but at the same time, I wasn't. It's hard to fathom a team playing that flat, right? It is. But at the same time, didn't we understand that this team wasn't right? Didn't we understand that coming into this playoff run, there was some sort of problem? And let me go back to Brett a little bit here, too, because, something that's interesting. Brett Brown spoke during the whole quarantine session before the NBA even returned that he was studying to play the Boston Celtics. He was getting ready to play the Boston Celtics. And it just seems like right now they're throwing anything at the wall to see what it sticks. And I'm not saying the answer is there because I just flat out don't think the answer is even on the basketball team. So to some extent, it's not sitting right in front of you when it comes to players and personnel. But to claim you have all this time and you're looking at what you can do against the Boston Celtics and now you're flip-flopping all these items left and right and Alec Burks is giving you minutes off the bench, and in this game he barely gives any time to Alec Burks early on. To be clear, Alec Burks should have had way more time, right? Raul Neto's 9 minutes, I don't think the 9 minutes should have came in that long of a window, maybe 4 minutes right there, and bang, you can move on from there, right? 9 minutes is definitely long, but Alec Burks should be in before Raul Neto. I understood completely why Raul Neto was in there because of the flawed roster and because nobody can make a pass to Joel Embiid in the post. So mentally, I get why, in theory, Raul Neto would be in, but not over Burks. And I don't think Burks was the difference in this game. Like the outrage of, Burks, and Burks was not fixing this 27-point lead. There's so many issues. I can't get over how many missed layups there were. Josh Richardson missing layups. Tobias Harris, what he did was truly vomit-worthy. What Tobias Harris gave us out there on the floor was one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life. I feel like he is better than that. I mean, come on, right? He's better than that, right? I don't get it. Because he has the makeup to be better. I don't understand. Be aggressive. Be assertive. And I know he doesn't have the dog mentality. I don't need him to be the dog. I don't need him to be the alpha. But I need him to make layups. I need him to hit those 2-footers, those 1-footers. And same with Josh Richardson. The Al Horford thing bothers me so much. It really does. I would feel like deep down, as a veteran in this league, going up against his former team, at some point, will would come into play, right? The want to would come into play. There's no want to on this team. They look like they lost their puppy. Seriously. Hanging their head, going through the motions. At one point, Shake Milton, no closeout, hanging out, just staring, literally staring. I forget who it was off the top of my head who took the three-pointer. For some reason, I want to say it was someone on the bench, but it really doesn't matter who was taking the shot. He was chilling, just looking and waiting to see if he would take the three, and he did, and then he moved his head over to the basket. No closeout. Didn't feel like it. And while that goes on Brett Brown because the team is not competing hard, the hell are you doing, Shake Milton? I blame them all. What are you doing, Shake Milton? Close out. Close out. Now, here's the one scenario that pissed me off so much. By the way, there was a 76-44 run at one point. The Sixers actually started out hot. They were doing their thing. Joel Embiid was cruising. He was doing damage. It was fun. And then out of nowhere, here goes this aggressive run. And that run did happen with Raul Neto out there, and that's why I think the time he was out there was doubled. It didn't need to be that much. 4 minutes, okay. 9 minutes, too long. But during that stretch, there was way more than Raul Neto being the issue on the defensive side and things of that nature. I mean, you had Tobias being poor. You had those players out there with him missing shots and missing opportunities. So way more than just Raul Neto in that run. But regardless, 76-44 run, there's way more people out there on the floor than just him when that happened. That's where the game fell apart. But third quarter, missed layup by Josh Richardson. Bad pass by Josh Richardson to Joel Embiid where there was a steal. Marcus Smart got the and one, and you're telling me there's a 360 dunk when nobody decides to get back? I'm not going to say I'm happy that this is happening, but I feel you needed it to be this ugly for some serious changes to happen. And while one of the things I've stressed all season long is you can't keep turning over this roster, because if you look over the last couple seasons, it's major, insane changes every single year. So I feel to some extent you just can't do that all the time and think that's a recipe for success. But it being this ugly opens the door for monster changes. I like using the Boston Celtics as an example when it comes to the Sixers this year. Kyrie Irving and that Sixers team, it didn't, I'm sorry, not the Sixers team, the Celtics team, it didn't work. It was one of the ugliest things we've ever seen, and they had so much talent, but it didn't flow. And with this team, individually, they have so much talent, but it's not like there's any cohesiveness. There's no chemistry with the team, right? And we all see that. So getting rid of Al Horford, if there's a team out there that's willing to take that contract, and who knows? I mean, there could be a team out there that says, here's a center without Joel Embiid. He can work. We have a young core. Maybe a veteran would work like that. I don't know. I'm being optimistic. Hopefully something like that can happen. Will that change be enough where, okay, now you have some free space. Now you can work with that. Now you can get someone new. Because all they did in Boston, they flip-flopped Kyrie Irving for Kemba Walker. Can you flip Al Horford for somebody else? Move Tobias to the 4, and now you have an open small forward spot for another guy in there with money. I mean, is that something that can happen? And look, here's how I know the 76ers are in so much trouble. And this is something that I alluded to on 97.3 ESPN today on the Sports Bash from 2 to 6 p.m. We are in the middle of a playoff run, and here I am talking about Brett Brown, the issues, what are they going to do in the offseason, what type of trades they're going to make. That just tells you how doomed we are. That just shows you the current state of the Philadelphia 76ers. And it's never a dull moment. It got real sour real quick with this fan base. It's to the point where it's not fun. It's not entertaining. And there was a time about 2 years ago where regular season must watch, Ben Simmons, so much fun, electric, Tuesday nights in October, great time. Now, it's one of the most frustrating teams I've ever watched, and it can go down in history in Philadelphia sports as one of the most brutal seasons, brutal teams that we have seen, and it has the potential to be more of a long-term problem if they can't get rid of some of these contracts and move around some pieces, because this ain't it. This ain't it. And hopefully there's a big-time fresh start here, because this is challenging to watch. 0 for 3, by the way, all Philadelphia sports teams. Phillies, lose. Sixers, lose. Flyers, lose. All the people that did the Philadelphia parlay today, yeah, shame on you. You mushed us all. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.